Daniel Frost's life had been reduced to a simple formula. Wake up, make sure Lily ate breakfast and got on the school bus, work his shift at the hardware store, pick up Lily, try to make dinner without burning it, help with homework, squeeze in a bedtime story, and collapse into exhaustion, rinse, and repeat. The grief support group at the community center was the only deviation from this routine, the only hour each week that was just for him, though he felt guilty even for that. The October evening was chilly as Adrian Porter pulled his worn jacket tighter and entered the community center. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as he made his way to the now familiar meeting room where a circle of chairs awaited the weekly gathering of the broken-hearted. 8 months since cancer had taken Melissa, and the hollowness in his chest still felt fresh, an ever-present void that no amount of parenting books could tell him how to navigate while raising their 9-year-old daughter Emma on his own. "Hey, Adrian," Susan, the group facilitator, greeted him warmly. "We have a new member today. I hope that's okay." He nodded, taking his usual seat. Adrian was just settling in when the door opened and a woman with copper-colored hair stepped into the room. She wore simple jeans and a navy sweater, but something about her posture straight-backed, yet somehow vulnerable, caught his attention. Their eyes met briefly, and she offered a tentative smile before looking away. "Everyone, this is Olivia Brennan," Susan introduced. "She's joining us for the first time today." Olivia took a seat directly across from Adrian in the circle. As the session began, he found his attention drawn to her more than once. There was an elegance about her, even in grief. When her turn came to speak, she cleared her throat softly. "My husband, James, passed away 6 months ago. Heart attack. It was unexpected." Her voice was steady, but her hands were tightly clasped in her lap. "We were married for 12 years. No children." Adrian felt a pang of empathy. At least he had Emma, his reason to get out of bed every morning, to keep moving forward. The thought of facing grief alone seemed unbearable. After the session, as he was preparing to leave, Olivia approached him. "Your daughter sounds wonderful," she said, referencing something he'd shared during the group. "How old did you say she was?" 9, Adrian replied, surprised by her interest. "Going on 30 if you ask her teachers." Olivia laughed, and the sound was warm, genuine. "I was the same way at her age, always in a hurry to grow up." They chatted for a few minutes, and Adrian found himself relaxing into the conversation. It had been so long since he'd talked to anyone about anything other than work, bills, or Emma's school projects. "Would you like to grab a coffee?" Olivia asked suddenly, then looked immediately embarrassed by her own boldness. "I mean, if you need to get back to your daughter." "My sister's watching her tonight," Adrian said, surprising himself with how quickly he accepted. "Coffee sounds great, actually." They walked to a small cafe 2 blocks from the community center. Adrian was acutely aware of his worn jeans and the small hole near the cuff of his jacket sleeve. He'd been meaning to sew it for weeks. The cafe was cozy, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Adrian ordered a regular coffee, mentally calculating the remaining cash in his wallet until payday. Olivia ordered a cappuccino, and they found a quiet table by the window. "So, you work at Porter's Hardware?" she asked, recalling another detail from the group session. Adrian nodded. "It was my dad's store. I took over when he retired 5 years ago. Small operation, just me and 2 part-time employees. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Most months, anyway." He hadn't meant to add that last part, and he felt heat rise in his cheeks. "What about you? What do you do?" Olivia stirred her cappuccino carefully. "I run a foundation. It was James's project initially, but I've been managing it for the last few years." "That sounds interesting. What kind of foundation?" "We focus on education initiatives, primarily." She seemed hesitant to elaborate. "It keeps me busy, which is good, I suppose. After James died, I threw myself into work, probably not the healthiest coping mechanism." Adrian understood that all too well. "I did the same with the store. If I wasn't working, I was thinking about Melissa, about how unfair it all was." At least at work, I could focus on something else. Their conversation flowed easily after that, jumping from grief to coping strategies to lighter topics. Adrian found himself telling her about Emma's science project disaster that had covered their kitchen in baking soda and vinegar, and Olivia laughed until tears came to her eyes. "I should get going," Adrian said reluctantly, checking his watch. "My sister has an early shift tomorrow." "Of course," Olivia said. "This was nice, though, thank you. Maybe we could do it again sometime." The words were out before Adrian could second-guess himself. Olivia's smile brightened her entire face. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, and Adrian walked home with a strange lightness in his step that he hadn't felt in months. The next day, Adrian was balancing the store's monthly budget, a task that always left him with a headache and a knot of anxiety in his stomach when his phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "There's a farmer's market downtown tomorrow. Emma might enjoy it. If you're free, of course." Adrian hesitated. He'd been careful to keep his dating life, not that he'd had much of one since Melissa, separate from Emma. But this wasn't a date, he told himself, just a friendly outing with someone from his support group. "Emma would love that," he replied. "We'll be there." Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Emma was excited about the farmer's market, especially when Adrian mentioned there might be apple cider donuts. They met Olivia by the entrance, and Emma immediately took to her, bombarding her with questions about everything from her favorite color to whether she believed unicorns could theoretically exist. "I like your questions," Olivia told Emma with a serious expression that made the girl beam. "They show you're a thinker." Adrian watched their interaction with a mixture of pleasure and caution. Emma hadn't shown this much enthusiasm for meeting someone new since before Melissa got sick. The farmer's market was bustling with weekend shoppers. Adrian kept a careful mental tally as they browsed, knowing his budget was tight. When Emma spotted a stand selling fresh strawberries, her favorite Adrian winced at the price but reached for his wallet. "My treat," Olivia said, already handing money to the vendor. "Please," she added, seeing his expression. "I insist." Adrian wanted to refuse, to explain that he didn't need charity, but Emma was already clutching the basket of strawberries with delight. He swallowed his pride. "Thanks. We'll get the apple cider then." As they walked through the market, Adrian noticed several things about Olivia. She wore no flashy jewelry, drove a modest car, and seemed genuinely uninterested in the upscale boutique stalls that some market attendees flocked to. What struck him most was how attentively she listened to Emma, treating the child's observations with the same respect she would give an adult. After the market, they stopped at a park, and Emma raced to the swings while Adrian and Olivia sat on a nearby bench. "She's wonderful," Olivia said, watching Emma pump her legs to swing higher. "You're doing an amazing job with her." Adrian felt the familiar tightness in his throat that appeared whenever someone complimented his parenting. "I'm trying. Some days are better than others." "That's all any of us can do," Olivia said softly. "Try our best each day." They sat in companionable silence for a moment before Adrian spoke again. "Can I ask you something? About your husband?" Olivia nodded. "How do you handle the reminders?" Emma has Melissa's eyes, her laugh. "Sometimes it hits me so hard I can barely breathe." Olivia considered his question thoughtfully. "I find comfort in the reminders now, mostly. James's coffee mug that I still use every morning, the way he folded his newspaper in this specific pattern that I still can't replicate." She smiled sadly. "The pain doesn't go away, but it changes. Becomes more like a companion than an enemy." Adrian appreciated her honesty. It was refreshing compared to the platitudes people usually offered. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a pattern. They would see each other at the grief support group, then often meet up on weekends for activities with Emma. Olivia introduced them to the botanical gardens, a pottery painting studio, and a free concert in the park. Adrian began to look forward to these outings, not just for the break from his financial worries, but for the genuine connection he felt with Olivia. One evening, After Emma had gone to bed, Adrian's sister Abigail confronted him while helping with the dishes. "So this Olivia woman," she began, a teasing lilt in her voice. Emma can't stop talking about her. Adrian focused intently on scrubbing a pot that was already clean. "She's a friend from the support group." "A friend," Abigail repeated skeptically. "A friend who takes you and Emma on what sound suspiciously like family outings every weekend." "It's not like that," Adrian insisted, though the denial felt hollow even to his own ears. "We're both grieving. We understand each other." "Ememhum," Abigail hummed, not convinced. "And the fact that she's gorgeous and makes you smile like I haven't seen in almost a year has nothing to do with it," Adrian sighed. "Even if there were feelings there, and I'm not saying there are, it's complicated. Emma is finally doing better. I can't risk messing that up if things didn't work out." "And what if they do work out?" Abigail asked gently. "What if this is a chance at happiness for both of you?" Adrian had no answer for that. The following Tuesday, Adrian received a call from Emma's school. She had fallen during gym class and needed to be picked up. When he arrived, he found his daughter with a swollen wrist and tear-streaked cheeks. "I think she should be seen by a doctor," the school nurse told him. "It might just be a sprain, but better safe than sorry." Adrian's stomach dropped. His health insurance had a high deductible, and he was still paying off Melissa's medical bills. But Emma was in pain, and that overrode everything else. At the urgent care center, the doctor confirmed it was indeed just a sprain, but recommended an X-ray to be certain. By the time they left with Emma's wrist wrapped and instructions for care, Adrian was mentally calculating which bill he'd have to pay late to cover this unexpected expense. "Can we call Olivia and tell her about my injury?" Emma asked as they drove home. "She said she broke her arm when she was my age. Maybe she can sign my brace." Adrian smiled despite his worry. "It's not a cast, sweetie. But yes, we can call her later." That evening, Olivia insisted on bringing over dinner. She arrived with containers of homemade soup, fresh bread, and a small stuffed penguin for Emma that immediately became the child's new favorite possession. After Emma was settled in bed, with her arm propped on pillows, Adrian and Olivia sat on the porch of his modest bungalow. "Thank you for dinner," Adrian said. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Olivia replied simply. "How are you holding up, really?" Adrian ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Olivia had come to recognize as a sign of his stress. "I'm fine, it's just a sprain." "That's not what I meant," Olivia said gently. The weight of the day, the worry over Emma, the medical bills, the constant juggling act that was his financial life suddenly felt overwhelming. "It's just one more thing, you know, one more unexpected expense that I have to figure out how to cover." Olivia was quiet for a moment. "Adrian, if you need help—" "I don't need charity," he said, more sharply than he intended. "That's not what I was offering," Olivia replied, her voice steady. "I was going to say, if you need help figuring out payment plans or navigating insurance, I've unfortunately had a lot of experience with that during James's illness." Adrian felt ashamed of his defensive reaction. "I'm sorry. It's a sore spot. Ever since Melissa got sick, money's been tight. The store does okay, but medical bills, mortgage payments, trying to save for Emma's college. It adds up." Olivia nodded understandingly. "You're doing the best you can. That's all anyone could ask for." They talked until well past midnight, sharing more deeply than they had before. Adrian told her about his fears for Emma's future, about the guilt he felt for not being able to provide more, about how lonely parenting could be. Olivia spoke of her marriage to James, their unsuccessful attempts to have children, and how empty her large house felt now that she lived in it alone. When Olivia finally left, Adrian felt both drained and oddly comforted. There was something about her presence that made his burdens feel lighter, if only temporarily. The next weekend, Olivia invited Adrian and Emma to her home for lunch. Adrian had been curious about where she lived, but was unprepared for the reality. Her house was a sprawling estate on the outskirts of town, with manicured gardens and a circular driveway. He parked his battered pickup truck beside a sleek black Audi, feeling immediately out of place. "You live here," Emma gasped as they approached the front door. "It's like a castle," Olivia laughed, but Adrian noticed a hint of nervousness in her expression. "It's just a house. Too big for one person, really." Inside, the home was elegant but not ostentatious. There were personal touches everywhere, books stacked on side tables, a half-finished puzzle on a desk, family photos on the walls. Despite its size, it felt lived in. "This is the foundation James started," Olivia explained when Adrian paused to look at a framed photograph of a group of children in front of a school building. "The Brennan Educational Foundation. We build schools in underserved communities and provide scholarships." Adrian looked at her with new understanding. "So when you said you run a foundation—" "Yes," Olivia confirmed quietly. "It's become quite substantial over the years. James was, well, very successful in finance before he turned to philanthropy." The realization hit Adrian like a physical blow. Olivia wasn't just comfortable, she was wealthy. The kind of wealthy that made his struggles to pay for Emma's urgent care visit seem trivial by comparison. Emma was delighted by the house, especially the sunroom filled with plants and a small indoor fountain. Olivia had prepared a simple lunch, and they ate at the kitchen island rather than in the formal dining room Adrian had glimpsed. "Can I show Emma the garden?" Olivia asked after lunch. "There's a koi pond she might like." Adrian nodded, still processing the revelation about Olivia's financial status. While they were outside, he wandered into the living room, looking at the photographs that decorated the mantelpiece. James Brennan had been a distinguished-looking man with kind eyes. In every photo with Olivia, they looked happy, connected. "He was a good man," Olivia said from the doorway, startling Adrian. "Emma found the koi food. I hope that's okay." "Of course," Adrian said, turning to face her. "Why didn't you tell me about all of this?" He gestured vaguely at their surroundings. Olivia crossed her arms, a defensive posture he hadn't seen from her before. "Would it have changed anything? How you saw me?" Adrian wanted to say no immediately, but honesty compelled him to consider the question. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "Maybe at first, but not now." "That's why," Olivia said simply. "In the support group, I'm just Olivia who lost her husband. Not Olivia Brennan, widow of James Brennan of Brennan Investments. Not the woman whose grief is somehow expected to be less real because she has money." There was a bitterness in her voice that Adrian had never heard before. "I didn't mean," he began. "I know you didn't," Olivia interrupted, her expression softening. "But this is why I don't lead with it. Money doesn't shield you from loss, from loneliness." Adrian thought about the evenings they'd spent talking, the way Olivia listened to his struggles without judgment, the genuine delight she took in Emma's company. None of that had changed. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "for making assumptions." Olivia's smile was tentative but real. "Let's go see if Emma has fed all the fish by now." The revelation about Olivia's wealth created a temporary awkwardness between them. Adrian found himself overthinking every interaction, wondering if she was secretly pitying him. He declined her next invitation, making an excuse about work, but the hurt in her voice was unmistakable. The following Thursday, he almost skipped the grief support group, but the thought of disappointing both Susan and Emma, who had grown accustomed to her evenings with her Aunt Abigail during Daddy's Sad People Club, propelled him there. Olivia wasn't in her usual seat. Adrian felt a mixture of relief and disappointment until she slipped in just as the session was starting, taking a chair on the opposite side of the circle. Throughout the meeting, they caught each other's eyes occasionally, but neither made a move to speak afterward. Adrian was almost to his car when he heard her voice. "Are you avoiding me?" Olivia asked directly, her breath making small clouds in the cold November air. "No," Adrian said automatically, then sighed. "Maybe, I don't know, because I have money," she stated, not a question. Adrian leaned against his truck, searching for the right words. Because I don't know where I fit in your world, Olivia. You live in a mansion and run a multi-million-dollar foundation. I'm struggling to keep a small hardware store afloat and raise my daughter on my own. And you think those things define us completely? Olivia challenged. Adrian, when I'm with you and Emma, I feel more like myself than I have since James died. More alive. Does it matter so much that my bank account has more zeros than yours? Put that way, it did sound ridiculous. No, he admitted. But it's not just about the money. It's about what we can offer each other, what kind of future we could possibly have. The words hung between them, the first acknowledgement that what they felt might be more than friendship. I don't know what the future holds, Olivia said softly, but I know I want you in it, both of you. Adrian looked at her standing there in the dim parking lot light, her copper hair catching the glow, and felt the walls he'd been building crumble. Emma's been asking about you, he said finally. She thinks you're mad at her. Olivia's expression crumpled. Oh, Adrian, no, I would never. Can I come see her? Explain? She's at a sleepover tonight, but maybe tomorrow, dinner at our place. Olivia's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. I'd love that. The next evening, Olivia arrived with a pumpkin pie for dessert and an apology for Emma that included a sincere explanation about grown-up misunderstandings that seemed to satisfy the child. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Olivia her latest art project, leaving Adrian to clean up. He was loading the dishwasher when Olivia returned to the kitchen. She's incredible, Olivia said, picking up a dish towel to help dry. So resilient, so much like you. Adrian smiled. She's more like her mother, honestly. Same stubborn streak, same creativity. I wish I could have known her, Olivia said quietly. Melissa. She would have liked you, Adrian replied, surprised to find he meant it. She always said I needed someone who could call me on my nonsense. Olivia laughed. Well, I'm certainly qualified for that job. After Emma went to bed, they sat on the couch, closer than they had been before. Adrian found himself telling Olivia about the store's financial troubles, about his fear of letting down his father who had built the business from nothing. Have you considered expanding your online presence? Olivia asked thoughtfully. Specialty hardware stores are finding new markets that way. Adrian hadn't, mainly because he lacked the capital for such an investment. When he explained this, Olivia nodded understandingly but didn't offer money. Instead, she suggested resources he hadn't known about: small business grants, community development programs, even a local college where students might help develop a website as a class project. You've thought about this, Adrian realized. Olivia looked slightly embarrassed. I might have done some research. The foundation works with small businesses sometimes. It's just information, Adrian. What you do with it is entirely up to you. He appreciated that she respected his independence while still wanting to help. It was a delicate balance, and she navigated it with a grace that touched him deeply. As weeks passed, their relationship deepened. They established traditions: Sunday brunches, movie nights with Emma, quiet evenings together after Emma was asleep. Adrian's initial discomfort about Olivia's wealth faded as he came to understand that she valued simplicity despite her means. For Christmas, Olivia joined Adrian and Emma at Abigail's small apartment. She fit seamlessly into their family celebration, bringing thoughtful gifts that showed how well she knew them: vintage tool catalogs for Adrian that she'd found at an estate sale, and art supplies for Emma that were high quality but not extravagant. In January, the furnace at Adrian's house broke down during a cold snap. The repair estimate was staggering, and Adrian found himself facing a choice between fixing the furnace or making payroll at the store. You could stay with me until it's fixed, Olivia suggested when he explained the situation. There's plenty of room. Adrian hesitated, thinking of the boundaries they'd carefully maintained. They hadn't even discussed the nature of their relationship explicitly, though it had clearly evolved beyond friendship. Just until the furnace is repaired, Olivia clarified, reading his expression. No pressure. Emma would love the koi pond. Emma was indeed thrilled by the idea, and Adrian reluctantly agreed. What was supposed to be a weekend stay stretched into a week, as parts for the furnace were delayed. Adrian expected to feel uncomfortable in Olivia's grand house, but instead found a surprising sense of belonging. Each morning, he'd wake to find Olivia and Emma already in the kitchen, making elaborate pancake creations or planning their day. In the evenings, the three of them would play board games or watch movies in the meatier room that Emma declared was better than a real theater. The night before they were set to return home, with the furnace finally repaired, Adrian found Olivia in her study, working on foundation documents. "Thank you," he said from the doorway, "for everything." Olivia looked up, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "You don't have to keep thanking me, Adrian. Having you both here has been wonderful." "It has, hasn't it?" Adrian moved into the room, sitting across from her desk. "I was afraid it would be awkward, but it's been the opposite. It feels right, being here with you." Olivia set down her pen, giving him her full attention. "It does. I've been thinking," Adrian continued, gathering his courage, "about us, about what we are to each other." "And what have you concluded?" Olivia asked, her voice soft. "That I'm in love with you," Adrian said simply. "And that I've been fighting it because of all the reasons it might not work, instead of focusing on all the reasons it already does work." Olivia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I love you too. I think I have since that first coffee after group, when you told me about Emma's science project disaster." Adrian moved around the desk, taking her hands in his. "I don't know what the future looks like, Olivia. I still have the store to worry about and Emma's college fund and 1,000 other things, but I know I want to face them with you beside me." "I want that too," Olivia whispered, standing to meet him. Their first kiss was gentle, a promise of what could be. When they parted, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Emma adores you," he said. "She told me yesterday that you make the best hot chocolate and tell the funniest stories." Olivia smiled. "High praise indeed." "The highest," Adrian agreed. "She also said you make me smile like Mommy used to." Olivia's breath caught. "Adrian." "She's right," he continued. "You've brought joy back into our lives in a way I never expected." The next morning, as they prepared to return to Adrian's house, Emma made an announcement over breakfast. "I think we should live here all the time," she declared, stabbing a piece of waffle with her fork. "It makes more sense. The koi need us." Adrian and Olivia exchanged surprised glances. "The koi have been doing fine without us for quite a while, Em," Adrian pointed out gently. "But they like us better," Emma insisted. "And Olivia has that big TV for movie nights, and my school is closer to here, and you wouldn't have to drive so far to the store, and Emma," Adrian interrupted, trying not to laugh at his daughter's determined expression. "It's not that simple." "Olivia and I are in love," Emma finished for him. "I know that. I'm 9, not stupid." Olivia choked on her coffee while Adrian stared at his daughter in astonishment. "What?" Emma asked innocently. "Aunt Abigail says you look at Olivia the way you used to look at Mom. And Olivia smiles every time your name comes up. Plus, I saw you kissing in the hallway last night." Adrian felt his face heat up. "You were supposed to be asleep." "I was thirsty," Emma shrugged. "So can we?" Adrian looked at Olivia, who seemed torn between amusement and anxiety. "Emma, that's not a decision we can make just like that. Olivia might not want—" "I do," Olivia said quietly. "Want you both here, I mean, but not until you're ready, both of you." Adrian felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of the grief that had bound him for so long, making space for something new to grow. "We could take it slow," he suggested. "Maybe spend more weekends here, see how it feels." Emma rolled her eyes in a perfect imitation of a teenager. "Fine. But the koi will miss us." 6 months later, Adrian and Olivia stood in the backyard of what was now their shared home. Emma was entertaining guests with stories about the koi pond, exaggerating wildly about the size of the fish to the amusement of their friends from the grief support group. The small gathering was a celebration of several milestones. Adrian's hardware store had launched its online specialty division with the help of a small business grant. Olivia had expanded the foundation's work to include support for widowed parents. And most significantly, they had decided to make their family official. "Ready for this?" Olivia asked, squeezing Adrian's hand. "More than ready," he replied, leading her toward their guests. Susan from the grief group was the first to notice the ring on Olivia's finger. Her delighted exclamation drew everyone's attention, and suddenly they were surrounded by well-wishers. "When's the wedding?" Abigail asked, hugging her brother tightly. "Spring," Olivia answered. "Just a small ceremony here, nothing elaborate." "And Emma's going to be my best man," Adrian added, winking at his daughter who had rushed over at the commotion. "Best woman," Emma corrected him seriously. "And I get to pick my own dress." As their friends and family celebrated around them, Adrian pulled Olivia slightly apart from the crowd. "A year ago, I couldn't imagine being happy again," he said softly. "You changed that, you and your overpriced coffee and koi pond." Olivia laughed, the sound that had first drawn him to her. "And you showed me that a house isn't a home without the right people in it." "We're going to be okay, aren't we?" Adrian asked, suddenly needing the reassurance. Olivia looked at Emma, who was demonstrating to Susan's grandson how to properly feed the koi. She looked at the home they now shared, at the life they were building together. Then she looked back at Adrian, the man who had walked into grief group with shadows under his eyes and love still in his heart. "Better than okay," she promised, and sealed it with a kiss.